I'm gonna make a new paint layer and put normals into this thing. Actually, yeah. Put this in there. Let's go to 3D projection. Why is that happening? Oh, okay, completely reset everything. That's cool. There we go. Project this guy around here. It's not very tall. I can kind of see the edge where happening here, so I want to try to line that up. Alright. I feel like I'm kind of crooked still. There we go, that's straight. Perfect. Alright, and then move it along over here. Let's see if I can get it lined up perfectly. Alright, and that is... yeah, that's kind of weird. That's the high res. That's what I did on the high res, okay? I'll show you in a minute here with that handle piece. All this katana, the entire production of this katana is 100% recorded and shown on YouTube. I gave you guys the recording for that. You can check it out on the YouTube channel. You know, maybe I should stack this stuff on top of itself there. But I modeled that in and baked it on. Okay, so that's how I got the actual shapes in there. And then with the wrapping itself, I did 2 directional layers. That way it's going in different directions. So it's not just 1 layer inside Substance Painter, it's 2 layers. Try this effect here. I wonder if there's a way I can invert this detail too, because I'm not sure if I like it. I'll just do that then. Or you're just gonna watch the video? That's cool. I also baked an ID map for that as well. Okay, so that's also something that I did to identify. Hang on. Let's see what this thing looks like here. Okay, get out of projection mode. Thank you. Awesome. I love it. Okay, so let me show you guys. Get out of my brush here. So, you know, going to my bakes, just hitting B, you'll see that's all in there. If I click on geometry here, I only have these straps modeled in. Okay, so I only have like I only have these little V shapes kind of extruding out, okay? So that's what I did for the game res. But the high res, I actually modeled all this stuff in there. And you may notice this, but I actually took this thing in segments. I modeled this small little segment here, both the game res and the high res, and then I stacked them on top of each other. Okay, and that way the high res matches up to the game res perfectly, and that's how it baked in there. Okay, and then I also made an ID map. An ID map here let me designate these strands separately. Okay, so what that map allowed me to do was to quickly grab a color in Substance Painter and mask out those greens, mask out those blues, and get the weaving going in different directions there as well. Okay, so that's how I got that. And I was able to click red and completely mask that out and use that for that there. And this is my own material that I made. It's pretty easy. I think I just used one of these cells in here to make that bumpy little look in there. Well, your model, James, your model doesn't really have normal map differences to it, though. Do you know what I mean by that? Your model doesn't have, like, this is all baked in. It's one full shape. If you're baking pieces in, it's kind of like what I was showing you guys with the grit and the railing for the grid that you can kind of bake opacity in. If you're baking specific details in that are not part of the geometry at all anymore, then that's where you may want to use an ID map, and that's going to make it easier for you to kind of mask things out. Okay, but since, I mean, your model is pretty straightforward, you can pretty much just grab entire shapes. Nothing in there is really baked besides, you know, maybe the screws. Okay, if you wanted to do an ID map for the screws, you could basically tell the high res that I want the screws to be red, and then you can just go in there and select red, and that way you can paint on the screws and mask them out really easily. But you know, the screws are just a circle too, so you can literally just grab a brush and just stamp, you know, and mask certain areas off that way too. So not really a big improvement, but if you had screws all up and down the thing, you know, like your pens, that would be a perfect example. If you were feeling like you wanted to get through this thing fast, you could have done an ID map for your pens and your pen holes, and that would allow you to mask off those little circles in there pretty easily and make those a different detail if you wanted to. But yeah, no, you know, I wouldn't say it's too much. I would say the amount of time it took for you to understand ID maps to bake it in there, you would have already gone in and painted that stuff by hand anyway, so I think you would be kind of even then. But me sitting here trying to paint all these guys separately, that would be a complete waste of time. Absolutely 100% wasty. But yeah, and what let me go over directional layers with you guys here. So this is my banding. Okay, so basically, you know, I have two different layers. I duplicated the layer, right? I chose what colors they were. I could change the roughness and the metallic and the distortion of them all that good stuff, okay? But since I'm here in the fill layer, I can actually just click on rotation and just rotate these guys around. Okay, that's kind of how I got them to kind of crisscross each other. It's just by tweaking some of this up, right? So I'm simply just moving rotation around, and it's just rotating the effect. So if any of you guys are dealing with wood grain or anything that needs to be in a special direction, that's how you do it. Is you rotate it around to be the right direction. If you have stuff that's supposed to go in a different direction, you're going to have to mask that off softly and kind of make a new layer and just rotate the layer around it. That's how you get things going in different directions. Okay. All of this was painted in Substance Painter. I was able to get that in there. That probably would have been a nightmare to model in, as the little indentations on the ends there. I just did a soft select, or I just did a shift brush and kind of made a line. Got that done pretty easily, actually. Okay. But yeah. Of course, this paint layer that I just made is not a mask, so I have less controls with this now. I'm going to say that I'm probably going to need to put some micro normals in here and put an anchor point on this thing. So if I wanted to actually get some edge wear on this, because there wasn't really a mask that I could use, you know, I might have been able to just paint that stuff in by hand, maybe. I don't think there were any, I don't think there's any hard surface masks in here. Okay, so I wish there was a way that I could just turn off the color and just use like height instead. I wish this was like height hard surface instead of normal, because that way I could have just used it as a mask instead. Well, you worked with what you got though. Yeah, it's not something that we teach really. It's fairly new, but I'll go through it with you guys. I used micro normals for this guy. Oh my god, what the hell? Come on, get in there. I used micro normals for this guy because I had that raw metal finish in there, and you can see some of the little dots in the grunge. The raw metal didn't give me that opportunity. I actually had to use, since the raw metal kind of put the pits in there with normals, I had to use micro normals to try to plug in the dirt in those areas as well. So I actually had to do micro normals for this guy. But I can show you how to play around with it on this guy here too. Okay. So let's try to do like a well, this is, I'm just gonna type in handle grid so I know that this is that. I'm gonna make an anchor point in here too. This is going to be handle grid. Pretty simple. It usually by default just sets that up. Okay. And it's not, I don't really need to pick anything for it. It's all good. We're going to come up. Now I need to make a fill layer. I'm gonna add a black mask to it. We're going to add actually, no, let me remove the mask because I feel like I need to get a smart mask over here. You could do smart masks or you can make your own generators, okay? But in this case, I'm going to use a smart mask just to give you guys something to work with here. Let's pick something that's going to look cool and make this thing stand out. I feel like I want a little bit of cavity and a little bit of edge wear at the same time. I'm not 100% certain what I'm going to do for this, so let's just see what we get. Let's just do stain scratching for right now. I'm just gonna put it into this guy here. My mask editor is giving me that. Okay. Now, you guys should know this by now, but if you don't, your generators only understand Your smart masks and your smart generators, they only understand what is baked onto the model. They only understand this stuff, okay? So if you're looking for them to, like, if I just painted these normal maps on there, right? If you're looking for them to respond to that, they're not going to do that, okay? And that's actually unfortunate too, because this guy's probably using curvature. We'll have to take a look at the mask, really, okay? But it doesn't understand all the layer details. It doesn't understand this stuff unless you use it as an anchor point. So that's what anchor points are there for, is for you to tell the model and the generator, hey, I want you to use this, okay, instead. I use normals for this, so this is going to be a little difficult because I'm not too certain if it's going to respond to any normal stuff. I need to make sure I find something that uses normals. Micro details. Okay. This guy's not using that though. This guy is not using normal, so I need to find something that is. Okay. No, when you paint stuff here in Substance Painter, okay, and you export a normal map out, it should plug that in there for you, okay? It should make the normal maps do that, okay? It's just the generators that don't understand the layers, okay? But it is going to send out your normals like this, okay? It's going to add that normal detail to your baked detail and make a combined map and export that out, okay? But your generators don't understand that yet, okay? Does that make sense to you? Anchors are something that force the generators to also look at other layers, exactly. That's what we're doing here. Let's do dirt cavity. See if this works instead. Oh god. Need to come over to my mass generator. This one's probably gonna work for me, I don't know. We'll have to see. What's the paint for? This guy looks pretty useless. I don't know why that guy came in there. Sharpen, I kind of get that, I guess. I'm gonna add another paint in here, and I'm gonna mask everything else out once again. I want everybody to be black, and then I only want you to be white. Okay, and then I'm gonna make this multiply. There we go. Now it's only affecting that. Cool. Coming over to my generator. Oh, why is it down to 90? It's okay, this is gonna get recorded too. Alright? I'm not leaving you guys in the dust here. So what I'm doing is I need to use the normals from this and plug it into this. So I'm going to come over to micro details. Okay. I'm going to add micro normal. Turn it on. I don't need micro height. And then I'm going to come over to micro normal and come over to anchor points. I'm going to find handle grid. Now from here, we're going to look for the normal channel. And there we go. Now we have a little bit of influence from that. But we're going to have to adjust it some more still, okay? We're not out of the clear yet. Let's play around with this stuff up here first, because that looks a little dangerous. So we're gonna use. I want most of this to go away. I'm just gonna lower the values here. Yeah, like a lot of this is too much. Okay, cool. Let's change this to black too. I want this to be just a dark color so we can see what this mask is doing for us here. Okay. This is what our mask is doing basically, so it's maybe hard for me to see that right now. But yeah, I'm just working with the fill layer, and I'm playing around with the mask right now. So curvature intensity now. It's okay, James. This is all being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and take a look. Basically, you know, so far, I enabled micro details to micro normal in the mask. And then I came over to micro normal. It looks just like this. I click in there and I add the anchor and I set the reference channel to normal. So that way it's picking up my normals, okay? So now if we look at our mask, you see that that I am actually playing around with the curvature intensity in here, and you see now that it's responding to that information. It's making like a curvature and an AO inside of here. Now if I play around with height details here, it's not getting anything because I don't have any height channel turned on. Okay, but yeah, you're seeing everything that's black is what is rendering in there right now. So I don't want this to be too crazy. Just getting a little bit of that stuff in there, getting the job done. We can make this go all the way up, maybe. Okay, and now that I have that stuff in there, we can come back up here because I basically pulled all that down, and I was like, you know, now I can actually play with this a little bit more with the base settings that it gave me, and see what else is coming in here. Okay, now I'm getting some nasty grunge in here. I'm not really sure what the heck this grunge is. It's like some kind of pattern or something there, but all right. We're just working with a black color yet too, so there's still some more that I can add to this thing and play around with it as far as how it's reacting to the material. Just looking at the mask here. What the heck is scatter? Bad scatter, go away. Alright. I think I like this. I think I like what's happening here. You know what, I want to play around with the scale of this grunge. It's like, there we go. This grunge needs to tile more or something. What are you doing, grunge? What makes you tick, brother? There we go. Okay. Okay, yeah, here we go. And you see how those scratches are really reacting to how my height and stuff is generated there. That's pretty cool stuff. It's giving me like a weird Rorschach here for some reason, though. I'm not really liking that. Is that my scratches? Like, what the heck? I really don't know why it's doing this. Like, it's giving me these mirroring effects for some reason. Let me turn triplanar off. Okay, I guess that's cool. I want higher. There we go. Yeah, that triplanar was just like projecting it and giving me a mirror, so triplanar is not always the best. Okay. I think we have this thing customized and I have the stuff that I want. This is what my mask looks like up here. Not too bad, looks pretty fun. I think the grunge is kind of broken up pretty well. So I'm not really going to worry about that. Alright. But so now I can play around with color. Color should not be black. We could put a little bit of height in there too. You know, you could put a little bit of this height stuff in there. Be very, very subtle with this, okay? It's very important to understand how these layers are overlapping each other and really pronouncing each other, okay? Hold tight here for a minute. I don't know why PE has to be the same time as my lectures. Okay, we don't want this to be metal, probably. So we need to turn metal off. Actually, I don't know if I like that. If it's a thin enough detail, I'm probably gonna say leave metal on. If it's nice and subtle, then the dirt is basically just we're gonna see through the dirt a little bit and get some of that in there. So I'm actually not gonna play with metal, but I do want to play with roughness. Roughness, we should be getting some cakier, lighter roughness in there. So now we're still getting metal, okay, but it's being included now a little bit more with the roughness. And roughness is what I would recommend you guys get most of your details in there with, is roughness. Roughness is so powerful. I would say it's one of the most important materials in PBR besides I would say it's the most important material, or the most important map in PBR, basically, because it's definitely giving us some different shine in there, and that's really powerful. So do make sure that you're giving roughness its due there, okay? But there we go. Now we have some details on the end of this thing. And you know what's great too? Now that I have this layer designated now, okay? I have this layer designated as my normal map layer for this little tiny area. I can keep drawing on this now and actually it would continue to generate the edge wear on this stuff. So let me give you an example for that. Let me come back to my hard surfaces here. There was a particular detail. You know, get something more linear. Probably. We'll try that out. Or you know what? I want to see if the height will work on this too. So let me try painting height in here. Because I have normals plugged in, but I don't have height yet. So let me try painting on height now to this brush. I've turned off normals, but you see that it didn't affect my layer there. Sorry. It did not affect my layer because this is a paint layer. I'm not working with a fill on this layer. I'm literally painting these details in. So I'm actually going to get a brush because I don't want to go through and stamp that stuff in there. I'm going to get a brush. We could do something like stitches maybe. Or you can just make your own brush. Doesn't really matter. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to make my own brush. Okay, I'm going to find an alpha that I like. That's going to give me like a pill shape probably. Keep on looking. Maybe there's some cool organic detail that I want to do over and over again here too. That could also be fun. That looks cool. I wonder, I don't think moons would match with the design of this thing. This looks awesome. I want to use this. Cool. Alright. So for this guy to work, what I'm going to do, I probably don't want this to be very harsh. I want this to, I don't want to line up. I want it to be at like 90-degree angles. Just type in 90. That should give me flat stuff. I don't know why it's doing that. You know what? I want to work with a straight line, and since this guy's so curved, I'm going to use the UVs instead. So let me line this guy up with the UVs here. Let's just set this to 0, because I'm sure that's probably what it was. There we go. But I want to go in the other direction though, so let's do 180. There we go. That's the direction I want it to go. I'm just going to hit the bracket keys to lower my opacity on this. Okay, and let's do the shift line, just to draw a straight line there. See what this looks like. I should be painting in height. I'm painting 0 height in though. That's what's happening there. So let me lower the height and let's see if this works again. Okay. That made a straight line, even though I told it not to, and the brush is doing the same damn thing. Okay. I gotta go back to 90 now. Let's hope this works. Okay. That is actually what I wanted it to do. Alright. But I want it to go all the way. I kind of missed out on the end of that. So let's try this. Okay. Alright, stand by. I gotta pause real quick.